Yeah, you just sit there, right? Okay. So, and also kind of a snowy day, not a snow day. I hate to say that. So thanks for coming, being here. It was a very exciting presentation. It's our last seminar for the semester, and it's one I was looking forward to pretty much all semester. We have a relation. We're developing and working on a new relationship or an existing relationship with Idaho National Laboratory, and one of the ways we're doing this is having an opportunity to see some of the work that they're doing. And so part of this presentation is about that. So we're very, very privileged and lucky to have with us today Dr. Bruce Hallbert, who's from the Idaho National Laboratory. So I'm going to read a little bit of his bio. It's very interesting. He was born in Montana, and he got to Idaho fairly quickly, it sounded like. He went to Idaho State University and got his bachelor's and his master's in experimental psychology, which was interesting. And his interest, though, was in artificial intelligence. And so that was the only way, really, that he could get into that field at the time. And so that was an interesting little parlay. Then he went to work at the Idaho National Laboratory as well, and he's working at human factors and artificial intelligence in the nuclear industry with that. So he worked his way through INL, did several different positions, and then they decided that he was had a lot of potential. So they sent him out for the Vanderbilt to get a PhD, and I have to write this down. He went to civil and environmental engineering with his PhD from an experimental psychology undergrad. So that was pretty impressive. It was very impressive. So got that in 2010, went back to INL, and he's since been working in several different director's positions, and now he's currently the director of nuclear energy enabling technology there at INL, and that's where his current position is. And I also learned he just flew in from Washington, D.C. last night, so we're glad all the flights worked out. But prior to that, you can tell he's really tan. He just got back from the Galapagos Islands. So while we were all studying after Thanksgiving, he was in Galapagos. So I was pretty jealous about that. So, anyway, without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Bruce Hallbert.
Well, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, and it's great to be here. It's really a privilege for me. It's wonderful to see some familiar faces. It's great to see some new faces too, people that I haven't met before. Before I start, I always like to know who I'm talking to. Can I just see a show of hands? How many students do we have in here today? Great. That's awesome. Well, you're a big reason why I do and what we do in the Department of Energy. We're going to talk a little bit about that. How many faculty and researchers do we have? Great. I know we're working with some of you already, and we're looking forward to working with you more. So I want to thank you all for extending me the invitation to come over here and talk a little bit about the work that we do in the Office of Nuclear Energy, in particular in this area of advanced sensors and instrumentation. And we have a very unique relationship that we're developing with Boise State University. And I'm not going to touch on that too much today because I think we're going to be talking about that a lot in the future. I want to talk a little bit about the Office of Nuclear Energy and what it's doing and what it's about. And also, why you might consider that in the future if you're thinking about a career, or also what types of research opportunities there might be for you. Let me talk about the broad topic area of nuclear plant instrumentation control and human machine interface technologies. When we think about nuclear energy systems, or energy systems of any type in general, we have a heat source, right? Everybody says thermodynamics, heat transfer properties, so we know that that's a key part of power production, power conversion systems. So what makes them work? There's something equivalent to a central nervous system in every nuclear power plant, and that's a collection of systems and technologies that we refer to broadly as nuclear plant instrumentation controls and HMI technologies, short. Over time, these technologies started from older analog technologies and gradually over time have evolved into digital technologies in most power generation sectors. In the commercial nuclear industry, I would say though that analog technology still these nuclear power plants. If you were to go into an existing commercial nuclear power plant today, in a control room especially, you would see something that looks like time capsule 1960s technology. And that's because these plants, these technologies, first of all, are very reliable. They're still working very well. They cost a lot to maintain in terms of the workforce, the labor, and it's very, very difficult to get the parts. But the industry as a whole is very risk averse. And the regulator has been very, very slow to adopt and develop approaches to improve these technologies, digital technologies, because of a couple of very simple reasons. One, digital technologies rely upon software, microprocessor. A digital device has a microprocessor typically, unless it's like an FPGA, field programmable gate array. So there's software in the loop. And we don't understand exactly how software fails all the time. So it's not like analyzing a deterministic device like a hardware device. So there's a lot of issues today with understanding and how to advance digital technologies for the commercial nuclear power industry. So we're working on that area. But there's a lot of needs for improving how we design these systems, especially for operators, and how to make operators more effective in the work that they do, especially in commercial nuclear power. Designers, researchers, and regulators need to be more systematic, methodical, and thorough in developing the safety bases for these new devices. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody can kick the can down the road. In fact, the meetings that I just came from in Washington, D.C. were a collection of organizations from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to the Nuclear Energy Institute, which is the lobbying arm of the nuclear power industry. Both sides believe that they're doing everything that's necessary to move these issues forward, but both will agree that things are just not effective. So this is where we are today. There's a lot of areas, there's a lot of opportunities for progress. There's a lot of research that still needs to be done. The mission of the Office of Nuclear Energy is to advance nuclear power as a resource that is capable of contributing to the nation's energy power supply mixture. And we emphasize mixture because we're not saying that nuclear energy needs to supplant any other source of energy in the country, but that we want to make sure that it's readily available as another source for energy security. And so we've been developing within the Office of Nuclear Energy different types of nuclear reactor technology concepts, from light water reactors to molten salt reactors, sodium-cooled fast reactors, and different types of reactors for the future that can produce not only process heat for industrial application, but also fission energy, just like we use for electricity production today. The Office of Nuclear Energy has a roadmap, and this is available on the Department of Energy's website. So if you're curious after the talk and you want to learn more about what it is that DOE does and how we sort of focus our research, I would encourage you to go there, because we have identified a number of national imperatives, and those national imperatives are driven by future energy supply and demand scenarios. And some of the key assumptions are that energy growth is going to continue to grow substantially by 2030, and that the demand for nuclear energy is going to continue to grow at the same time. So the roadmap, the nuclear energy roadmap, outlines an integrated approach for how the Department of Energy can do certain things in the area of R&D to help address those needs. So we've identified 4 things within the NE R&D roadmap that we think are very important. One is we have 100 nuclear power reactors in the U.S. today. operating and operating safely. Some of you may have heard that some plants have decided to shut down because of economic reasons or other reasons, but typically economic reasons. So keeping those plants operating and finding ways for them to remain economically viable is the first priority of the Office of Nuclear Energy. What can the federal government do? What should the federal government do? What should the role be of the Office of Nuclear Energy in terms of ensuring that the existing fleet of light water reactors continues to provide electricity to the U.S. because it provides, the existing nuclear power fleet provides about 20% of the nation's energy baseload electricity power. And that 20% represents about 63% of all the non-carbon emitting electricity generated in the U.S. And I'll just repeat that. It's about two-thirds, slightly less than two-thirds of the non-carbon emitting electricity generated in the U.S. So nuclear power not only is very important in terms of energy security, reliable energy, but also in terms of addressing the nation's greenhouse gas emissions. The second thing that the roadmap focuses on is developing improvements to create new reactor technologies, because at some point in time, the existing fleet of light water reactors is going to retire. In fact, we have a view graph that we use sometimes. It's not in this presentation, but it shows when the projected retirements are in different scenarios with plant life extensions for how long the existing fleet will continue to produce electricity. So new nuclear energy sources need to take the place of existing nuclear energy sources. The reason for that is twofold. Nuclear energy is a stable, reliable, baseload source of electricity for the country. It doesn't depend upon, the time of day to get its energy source. It's available 24/7. And it's also non-greenhouse gas emitting. We're also working on developing sustainable nuclear fuel cycles. So that really relates to how available are the sources of the feedstocks of fuel. And they're very plentiful. And another concern is avoiding nuclear proliferation and terrorism. So there's a big effort within the Department of Energy focusing on that. The roadmap also looks at all the different enabling technologies, from material science, nuclear fuels, energy system development, down to instrumentation and controls and computational methods. All the different enabling capabilities that you need to have if you're going to undertake such a broad initiative like we're talking about here, from designing nuclear reactors to sustaining the existing fleet to developing new fuel cycles. It's actually quite a bit of capabilities that you need to have, and they're spread across a variety of national laboratories and universities and private companies. So the roadmap focuses on what those are, what are needed, and what time frame they're needed. And the bottom line is that this all comes down to, within the R&D community, a lot of science-based research and a science-based approach to nuclear energy development. Because ultimately, we have to prove the principles of every new system that we develop. Every system that we design and develop, we have to know from a scientific standpoint, from an engineering standpoint, that it's fundamentally sound, down to its structural materials, down to the basic science that underpins it. So we are doing basic science, basic scientific research. And from the basic scientific research, we build up the case for the selection of materials for fuels, for cladding for fuels, for new types of fuels, for new types of reactor materials, for new reactor designs, all the way out to what's going to be the most economic design for the long term. How do you staff them and how do you operate them? And how do you design the instrumentation and controls and the control rooms for these technologies? And they're based upon experiments, theory, modeling, and simulation, and of course, can't do it without And that's what the INL typically has been used for in the past. We are the nation's nuclear energy laboratory. And so that's where a lot of this kind of all comes together, especially the demonstrations. Over the past 50 years, we've designed and tested and demonstrated over 50 different physical nuclear reactors at the INL. So Idaho has an amazing history in the world. If you talk, in the world, to people in the world who know anything about nuclear energy technology development, they've all heard of Idaho. Not just because of the great potatoes, which is also something we know. So drilling down a little bit and focusing in on this area of instrumentation and controls technologies. We've defined a long-term R&D program that addresses 4 key areas, needs in 4 key areas. One is sensors. Every nuclear energy system requires sensors to measure key parameters in the process, to know what's happening, whether it's in the core, whether it's in the balance of plant, whether it's in the different parts of the reactor, or other parts of the process control system. So we require sensor technologies to either reduce measurement uncertainty or improve the reliability of existing systems. Another technology is monitoring and control systems. So beyond sensors, once we have sensor data, we use that sensor data to make decisions in real time using process control systems. And I'm pretty sure everybody here is familiar with process control technology. But these are essentially ways of taking the sensor information and getting the system to perform in some optimal range. And for an energy system, you want to get that plant energy system producing its optimal heat output, sustaining it, and running as long as possible at those output levels, and doing it in an uninterrupted fashion. We need secure and reliable digital communications, and this is another way of talking about cybersecurity. As soon as you mention the word digital technologies, half of the world that I work with starts talking about cybersecurity, because that's the big difference between analog technology and digital technology. It's not only software, it's also about the communications technologies that are inherent in these new systems. I think that there's no digital system that is immune from cyber issues. And the cyber threat is one that we know evolves with time. As soon as you think you know it, it's changed. And this is sort of the mantra of the cyber community. So we are conducting research. We're planning to conduct even more research in the future to develop, cyber secure by design technologies. And we're working on defining what does that really mean. And then how do we integrate all of our assets into a fleet? More and more nuclear power plants, through mergers and acquisitions following deregulation, have been segregated into larger fleets of operating utilities. So instead of plants that used to be owned and there might be 1 or 2 reactors owned in the company, there are now 15, 20 plants that are owned in a company. But trying to get those to operate, at an economy of scale still is a challenge. We think that technology really is the way that that's going to happen. So we're conducting research to demonstrate how to do that. And that's a way, I think, also feeding back to the first question of how do you sustain the existing fleet? Try to identify economies of scale that we haven't identified and deployed yet. So one of the things that we do in the Advanced Sensors and Instrumentation program is that we work with all of the different Office of Nuclear Energy R&D programs to identify what are the common needs across all these programs for sensors and instrumentation. Identify what gaps are currently not being addressed in programs, and look further into the future and say, beyond what you're doing today, beyond the sensors that you're developing for today's test or tomorrow's test, what can we think about in the future? What do we need to be planning for in the future? And fund that kind of research, things that are cross-cutting and enabling. And that's really what the name is about. And I'll talk a little bit about what some of that research is. And again, this really is in the areas of sensors, monitoring controls, communications, and also concepts of operation. When I say concepts of operation, I'm really talking about more the human factors and how are people going to relate to the technology when you pull it all together and work to demonstrate it. I'm not going to go through this list here, but I want to just emphasize on this one slide that there are, if you look at the right side of the slide, that there are a lot of organizations on here, including Boise State, who have won awards competitively in this program and are conducting research in a variety of different areas that are associated with advanced sensors and instrumentation. And most of these programs, you might see the name of the lead researcher, but there's usually other names behind those names. They usually represent consortia, organizations that include private companies as well as individuals from universities or national laboratories. So it's a real combination of organizations here. Every year we release a call, and right now the call was released in August. So if you're interested in this area, every July we start sending out feelers for requests for what you think might be interesting. In August, there will be a webinar, and then shortly after that webinar, by like about 1 week or so, there will be an FOA. We call it an FOA. It's a funding opportunity announcement. And anybody can apply to that. I mean, you have to be a U.S. entity. I mean, it's not open to foreign institutions to apply to. I'm going to talk just a little bit about some of the research that we're doing here, just to give you a flavor for some of the work that we're currently funding. One of the things that we're very interested in is being able to better measure the conditions and parameters that happen inside the core of a nuclear reactor during tests and experiments. So at the INL, we have this very unique reactor called the Advanced Test Reactor. It's really unique in the whole world because of a number of capabilities. And we put fuels and materials into it to develop and qualify them and to learn about them, especially for new types of fuels. And we have a need for the ability to measure the neutron fluence, the neutron flux in that nuclear reactor core more precisely. Some of the measurements that we take today are taken from a distance just because the materials that we use to measure with or sense with really can't stand that high neutron irradiation. You can imagine. It's like measuring something from a distance because your sensor can't stand the environment. So we developed what we call a micro-pocket fission detector, which is just a fancy name for this particular type of sensor. But this is a sensor that will measure several different parameters at one time. It measures fast flux, fast neutrons, as well as thermal neutrons, and then temperature in a single instrument. So that's going to be very important because it's also very small. I mean, it's smaller than the size of a pen. So we can put many of these sensors throughout the reactor core and get many measurements that we can use for modeling and simulation codes. We're also doing research with fiber optics. Everybody knows that optical properties are an important source for obtaining insights into parameters of different systems. In a nuclear reactor environment, though, fibers tend not to do very well. They tend to grade very quickly because of neutrons, And so there's an attenuation effect. And to date, most of the bandwidth that's really available from fiber optics is in the infrared spectrum. That's what's left over after irradiation for a very short period of time. So we've been working with the University of Pittsburgh, and they in turn have collaborators from Corning. Everybody's heard of Corning glass. They also made the shields for the space shuttles. So they're experts in fiber optic technologies. So they're working on doping fibers and developing different types of fibers that can stand up to what we call in-pile, in-reactor radiation conditions. Very interested, though. I'll tell you, we remain very interested in fiber optics and doping fibers as a means of gathering data in pile. So I know you are material scientists here, many of you are. So that's going to be an area that's going to remain a very high interest for us. And we're going to have more calls in that area. So we have big ideas there, even out of funding opportunity sequences. We're going to be very interested in it. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip through a couple of these. I mentioned advanced concepts of operations. In a nuclear power plant control room, how many operators do you think? And I'll just take a few guesses here. But how many operators do you think are in a nuclear power plant control room? And Harold, you can't answer because you know.
First time it would have been wrong.
So 5, 2, 1, 5.
At least 2.
At least 2.
Over 6.
So yeah.
You got it.
So there's an interesting story here. The law is if you have one plant with one control room, the minimum shift staffing is 3 licensed reactor operators with 1 senior reactor operator, something like that. That's the law. But typically plants have about 5. That's what they usually have. Because that's kind of what it takes to operate a plant. If you look around the control room, the division of labor, if something goes wrong, then that's how many people it takes to go through the procedure that they have in place to respond to an anomaly. So most of the staffing plans are really set up for off-normal conditions, not for routine conditions. When the plant is up and running and everything is going just fine, it almost takes 0 operators to run that plant in the main control. There's not a lot to do. You just walk up occasionally and you acknowledge something. They're very reliable. In fact, sometimes they run for 18 months, what we call breaker to breaker. And they just go. There might be some things, and there certainly are things that they do on a daily basis that are all very important. But I remember a friend of mine, a colleague from Germany, back in the days when Germany was really designing reactors and working a lot in the nuclear industry, mentioned to me that in the future, their concept for a control room was to have 1 operator and a dog. This is what he said. And I said, well, so tell me how that staffing works. And he said, well, the operator is there to touch the controls if something goes wrong, and the dog is there to bite his hand if he touches the controls. So their concept was they wanted to design a plant that was so reliable that no human intervention was ever going to be necessary. That's what the analogy was for. We're not there. We're not there with the existing fleet of light water reactors. But this research project and operator support technologies for fault tolerance and resilience is sort of about how do you use advanced technologies to aid the existing crew of operators to see faster than real time about what's happening in the plant if something does go wrong. And so researchers from Argonne National Laboratory have been working with advanced simulation tools together with human factors researchers from the INL to identify how to detect faults before an alarm system would ever spot them and information to an operating crew member or members in such a way that is actionable and usable, and isn't just a code and gobbledygook that they would go, well, that's confusing, what do I do with that? So this is something that we think is potentially very useful and very interesting as well, too. You probably have all heard about embedded instrumentation in one form or another. You've heard about the Air Force's F-117. It's an airplane that is so complex that a pilot can't fly it. They have embedded controls directly into the control surfaces on the plane, and a lot of the controls are done outside of the pilot's hands, outside of their awareness. And the idea being that you can do controls in many control loops out on the control surfaces of systems much more quickly than involving an operator in the loop. And you can be more reliable, more efficient by doing that. That's worked very efficiently, worked very well with the F-117. In fact, you wouldn't even be able to fly with the F-117 if you had an operator in the loop, because it's just a little bit too complex for a human pilot to fly. We're looking at those same concepts and trying to take the traditional control approach, where we have control circuitry outside of the component. In other words, we take sensors and send the information out to a control system with control circuitry and control logic, and then provide input back to the component. We're looking at changing that paradigm and moving it all on board the component, directly onto the control surfaces. And that'll be very beneficial for advanced reactors, for some advanced reactor compounds especially, because some of the reactor coolant pumps in advanced reactors will have to be suspended in the coolant. So you're not going to really have penetrations that go outside of the coolant loop, outside of the coolant system. So we'll have to design those systems to be integral, internal to the components themselves. So working with researchers at Oak Ridge, University of Tennessee, they've been working on developing new canned rotor pumps. As it turns out, this is now in, I think, the 4th year of research. Actually, the 2nd year of research in this project, but it was continued from a prior project. And the commercial industry developed a lot of canned rotor pumps for a variety of applications. They've been following this research and now have shown a great deal of interest in this, in commercializing and licensing this technology. Yangming, I don't think I can give this presentation better than you can. But I can describe it. Okay. I'll just say that if you want more information about this research, that you don't have to go any further than Professor Zhang here, who is the principal investigator. We're very happy to have Boise State represented in our portfolio of research projects in the Office of Nuclear Energy. He's doing research and he's leading a team that's looking into power harvesting technology, which we think is going to be an enabling capability. We're interested in deploying sensors in the future for nuclear energy systems that don't have to have power cables supplied to them, and don't have and can provide their information wirelessly. So the key to that is having power harvesting technology enabled. So there was a lot of interest and there were a lot of applications. Professor Zhang had previously done research for the office, for the Department of Energy, and submitted to this call area, and his research is going along very well. We're looking forward to this research, leveraging this research and harvesting and applying it in commercial nuclear power plants. And I can tell you that some of the people that we talked to about this research are also very excited about it. So, so thank you very much for the work you do.
Thank you.
And I'll stop there because technically I think I'm probably embarrassed myself. I mentioned to you at the outset of my presentation that one of the big challenges that we have in our industry, the nuclear power industry, and deploying digital technologies is the considerable uncertainty around software. And that really stems with the regulators' concern over software common cause failure. That's their term for what happens if all your software decides to freeze up at once. Common cause failure. It's like if you were to liken it to a power supply issue or an electrical system and say, well, what happened if all your electrical supply decided to go out at once? What happens if you lost your electrical supply of the system all at once? Well, you wouldn't have pumps running, would you? It's the same analogy for software. They think. I'm not trying to argue the point. I'm saying from their perspective, software common cause failure is what happens if your software fails, whatever that means. And how do you prove to a regulator that that cannot happen? And that really is the crux of the issue. How do you prove? And so we have researchers at the University of Tennessee and researchers at the Electric Power Research Institute conducting research to independently of one another come up with methods to try to demonstrate approaches to qualify digital devices and show that software common cause failures can be ameliorated. So the nuclear power industry is following this research very closely. I mentioned earlier university involvement. There's a lot of ways for university people to become involved. One is, the INL has fellowships, and very soon fellowships and faculty funding announcements will begin. So if some of the things that I've talked about are of interest or areas related to this are of interest to you, please contact me, and we will put you in contact with the right technical point of contact at the INL, or knowing that you are interested helps us to say, well, maybe we need to have an area out there this year for people to apply to, because we're just now starting to define the fellowships for the summer. But we do provide fellowships and assistantships for both students and professors. We have about 20% of all of the Office of Nuclear Energy's research goes to what we call NEUP, Nuclear Energy University Programs. And that is specifically for university research. That's all it's for. If you want to partner with an external institution as a part of that NEUP research, that's okay. They can be a part of it, but they can't get very much money from it. It's really meant for university, faculty, and students. And just think of that, 20% of our budget goes to them. And we're pretty proud of it. We like that we do that. At first, we were not all super excited to see 20% of our budget go away, but now that we've started doing that, we really realize that there's a great benefit to supporting our nation's universities. We get back far more than what we get. I would encourage you to pay attention to those. And then also, as I mentioned, there's a lot of research that we do in our programs, and so part of we have this collaboratory that we've been forming between the INL and BSU, Boise State. And if you're interested in learning more about what that research is, I would encourage you to get involved and contact Professor John or Harold Blackman or some of the other principals who are working on that project. Because Amy Moll, of course, knows a lot about what we're doing, and she would also be a good point of contact. So in summary, we are working on, we do have a program within the Office of Nuclear Energy to create new capabilities and advanced sensors and instrumentation that really runs the gamut from sensors, monitoring and controls, communications technologies, concepts of operations, and a lot of it's based upon where the commercial nuclear power industry is now, trying to support its long-term operation, as well as looking into the future and saying, what do we need to do to enable future nuclear energy systems, advanced reactors, where so convenient when you have such a great university like yours, so close to our laboratory. It makes it easy to work together. And again, I just appreciate the opportunity to come to Boise State over here, even in the weather, and to be a part of your morning. So thank you very much.
I wanted to ask you, when I spin off of what you were talking about at the end, you were talking about a lot of opportunities for faculty to get involved. Could you, we have, I think, at least in the mechanical, we have about 700 undergraduate students at any one time. And we have all the other disciplines as well, sort of brings that number to pretty good size.
Mm-hmm.
So what opportunities for internships and that sort of thing would you describe what that process looks like and what the opportunities are?
Yeah, we have hundreds of internships every summer. Harold, I don't know. The process for that is, I just received an email from our internship point of contact this week saying that the process is going to start up soon for the summer's internship process. So we'll soon be writing up, the calls.
Okay.
And then there will be lots, and then if you're a student or a faculty member, you just go to the INL website. There's a place on there for you to go into under opportunities to work with us and stuff where you can apply for fellowship.
Partner with INL?
Probably under
Careers?
Careers, probably.
Students, whoa, whoa. Internships?
Internships.
There you go.
There you go.
Look at that.
Internship fact sheet.
Nice.
And then there's Thomas Steele as our main person. Yeah, so there's opportunities you can apply for those, and then if you're applying for something in these areas related to what I talked about, shoot me an email and let me know.
Why now? Application for that and 2017 spring summer. I might not be qualified. Not listed. What's the paragraph describing how INL internships? Lots of people have interest. Plan at least 1 hour of uninterrupted time. I don't have that. So I'm not gonna be able to.
Well, then you just can't apply.
Okay, so there's the
There's here.
advanced manufacturing technology, advanced transportation technology. This is we don't want to do that. Accounting, finance. Yeah. Cybersecurity. Awesome.
Yeah.
Are the internships all for on-site at the Idaho National Laboratories, or are there other internships that could be?
Like you want to go to Hawaii or?
For example, research here in the Treasure Valley. Is there an office in the Treasure Valley where anything happens, or is it all on-site at the laboratory?
We haven't established anything here yet. No, it's at the internship is at the INL in the summertime.
Are there any other questions?
Sign it?
Well, students, good luck on your finals.
Wait, we have one more presentation, I believe.
We have one more thing. So, Bruce, just to say a little thank you,
Okay.
since we couldn't take you off on the blue turf today because it's white turf, not blue turf. It's white turf, and besides that, they're actually practicing, which is the real reason.
Oh, I really want to go over now.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
Come on.
Nobody can do that. We do have a Bronco football signed by Coach Harson, and
No way.
the ATF actually stands for Attack the Field. So, Bruce, thanks for coming.
Wow. Thank you so much.